Welcome back, everyone. Jason here. The moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. Only Murders in the Building Season 2's finale finally reveals to us who killed Bunny Folger. Now, before we talk about how we got there, I'm going to throw out a big spoiler warning. Going to be talking spoilers about this week's episode as well as the remainder of the series up to this point. If you haven't watched this week's episode or any of Only Murders in the Building, go on and check it out and come on back and let's talk about it. That being said, let's just dive in. So, picking up on last week's revelation that Poppy White is in fact Becky Butler from All Is Not Okay in Oklahoma, we find out that Becky staged her own disappearance to escape from her life of abuse in her hometown of Chickasha, Oklahoma, by leaving her abusive alcoholic father and her abusive sexually harassing mayor. She staged her own disappearance and used it to try to get a job with Cinda Canning, pitching the idea of what would become one of the hit murder podcasts, All Is Not Okay in Oklahoma. Cinda, of course, would take all the credit. The case would be closed and everything would be fine, or so Poppy would have hoped. But when Only Murders in the Building, Charles, Mabel, and Oliver move in to almost upstage her, Cinda doesn't want to become the one-hit wonder of murder podcasts, so she needs something juicy. Poppy suggests the disappearance of that artist, Rose Cooper, and Cinda wants a grisly murder, and makes a art fart joke and says she's going to take care of it herself. So the trio has determined that Cinda is the mastermind, that she's the one who killed Bunny. And the only way they're going to get her to get to prove that she's the one is to get her to confess. So they go to Poppy and have lunch with her at the pickle diner to try to determine ways to get Cinda to confess. She points out that some of her weaknesses include people who don't look like her, mistakes, and of course the big ones, slow motion and the inside of a tomato. So after she gets a call from Cinda and is sent away, she orders a liverwurst and marmalade sandwich to go, which is weird, to say the very least. But Mabel gets a call from Detective Williams, who tells her what she found on the knife, the murder weapon. And Mabel realizes she knows what 14 Savage means. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? The trio has a plan to get Cinda to confess, and involves everyone they know that was close to Bunny in the building. So, in Bunny's apartment, with the help of Mrs. Gambolini and the residents of the Arconia and Marv, for some reason, they decide to work together to try to get Cinda to confess. And they do this with a killer reveal party. It is both a party to reveal a killer and a killer party where a killer is revealed. It's a double entendre. So after Cinda arrives, the stage is set. The players have to do their part to get Cinda to confess live in front of the Only Murders social media audience through a live stream. Cinda is there, of course, to record what she thinks is Mabel's confession because she thinks that Mabel did it. Poppy, of course, knows what's going on and isn't quite sure how this is going to play out. So as things begin, Alice slips in, kind of almost unnoticed, And they come up with a summation of events that Cinda decided to kill Bunny. She'd been in the building many times. She used Detective Krebs, who she met in Oklahoma, to cover things up. And it looks like they're going to get a confession out of her. They even go as far as all engaging in slow-mo. And Charles cuts open an tomato to freak Cinda out. And just when we think we're about to get a confession from Cinda, Mabel reveals that the killer is actually her ex-girlfriend, Alice. Alice has been lying all along. She found the Son of Sam card in her purse. She claims that she tried to buy the painting from Bunny, but Bunny wanted $14 million for it, and Alice wasn't going to buy it. So she decided to murder her and steal the painting, but it was a fake, so she planted the evidence. Used Detective Krebs to plant the evidence, that sort of thing. And Alice, in a bravo, you caught me moment, tries to strike back at her with the knife for the cake for the murder reveal party when Charles steps in and is stabbed. And down he goes. And it is a very shocking moment, to say the least. I was certainly taken aback by that. I did not see the show going in that direction. And as the residents of the Arconia have tied up Alice, and Mabel and Charles kind of sit, sort of mourning their friend, their fallen friend, Cinda commends Mabel for solving the case and says, you know, you could get a job. You're so good at this. You could work for me, and you could have your own podcast. This comes to the shock of Poppy, who can't take it anymore. You know, she didn't figure this out. This isn't, you know, there's nothing that pins Alice to this murder. There's no way. You think she's so smart. This is all luck. I'm the smart one. I did this. I did that. I deserve my own podcast. Well, in all the commotion, they moved Mrs. Gambolini out of her cage and into the middle of the floor. And at that moment, Poppy begins to sneeze. As they point out, the killer sneezed when they were going through the catacombs. And she says, what? You're going to believe the word of some girl hiding in your walls? Now, no one had mentioned anything about Lucy. And they realize only the killer would know about a girl hiding in the walls. That's right, folks. It was Poppy White all along. Becky Butler herself killed Bunny Folger. She also faked her own death with the help of Detective Krebs. She seduced Detective Krebs there in Oklahoma. She used him to not only hide and plant evidence to suggest her murder and who did it, which would be the mayor. She also killed Bunny to try to get the painting, to try to get the podcast, to actually try to frame Cinda Canning. Because, as she points out, she texted not only Charles and Oliver that night, she also texted Mabel. But Mabel came back into the apartment and hadn't checked her phone. And Bunny comes stumbling in, and Poppy goes running out. And thus, the murder of Bunny Folger is solved. Oh, and Cinda knew that Poppy was Becky Butler because Charles, Oliver, and Mabel told Cinda. In fact, this whole thing was a ruse planned not only by Charles, Oliver, and Mabel, but also Cinda Canning to get Poppy to confess to murder. In fact, the moment when the biggest tell is the moment when Cinda says, you should have your own podcast. To Mabel, she kind of side-eyes Poppy in a look of, well, I hope she's listening. So Poppy and Detective Krebs are taken away. Oh, and the realization. So back to that phone call that Mabel had with Detective Williams. Detective Williams tells Mabel that the DNA on the knife belongs to a dead girl from out of state. To which Mabel replies, "Let me guess, Oklahoma. How did you know that?" To which she finds out that 14 Savage was not actually 14 Savage. It was the number 14 sandwich on the menu at the Pickle Diner. That menu item, the liverwurst and marmalade sandwich that was ordered by none other than Poppy White, Becky Butler herself. So, that's it. The murder of Bunny Folger is solved. Justice is served. All guilty persons are taken to prison, and the trio can finally move on. Both parties record the finales of their respective podcasts. Cinda records Only Murderers in the Building. Oliver, Charles, and Mabel record Only Murders in the Building. And they can finally move on. Mabel finally moves ahead with the renovations to her aunt's apartment, which to me is the first sign that she's finally becoming complete. She can finally move forward. She can finally step into her own. And that's what I've always wanted for Mabel, is for her to get past all of this stuff that happened back then and move on. Oliver decides to tell Will the truth, that he isn't, in fact, his real father. But Will kind of lets him know that he always knew, and that it doesn't really matter to him. Charles is back as Brazos again. He's out of the wheelchair and de-dementiaed, because that's exactly how dementia works. And he finally decides to move on from Jan by asking Joy, the makeup lady, to go out on a date with him, or at least asks him in his own neurotic, panicky way. But it works out well for him in the end. And Oliver gets a call from his producer, and he's back on Broadway again. He's directing in 1 year's time. So jump ahead a year later. It's opening night on Oliver's new show. He's directing one of the hottest stars on Broadway, a Ben Glenroy, played by none other than Paul Rudd. Yes, that is right, folks. Paul Rudd makes an appearance in this episode. And there's some tension between him and his co-star. That co-star is Charles Hayden Savage himself, Mr. Brazos. Just before the curtains are about to, just before the curtain call and the show's about to start, the two of them kind of have a conversation, because Oliver's trying to get them to come to an understanding and, use whatever animosity they have towards each other for the, good of the show. And Charles tries to say, if I can do it, you can do it. It's only a couple hours. Let's just make the best of it. And, but Ben is not willing to let bygones be bygones, but Charles says, just be smart. Charles says specifically, be smart. Stay away from her. And he says, and Ben replies, what are you going to do? And he says, come on, Ben, I know what you did. And walks off. Now Mabel arrives, and several of the residents of the Arconia are sitting in the audience, along with Lucy and Joy, and they are all excited. Mabel is finally excited that it's been a 1 full year without any murder kind of consuming their lives. Oliver comes out from backstage to join them, to sit and watch the fruits of his labor. It's opening night, and he's as the director of the show, he's ready to just sit back and enjoy. And as the curtain comes up, Ben comes out, starts to deliver his first line, and stumbles and pauses and drops to the floor. And as blood comes streaming from his mouth, he lays motionless and dead on the stage. Charles comes out to check on him, with others coming up, and since Charles is the only one to have been known to have some conflict with this Ben Glenroy, he is the primary suspect in next season's murder, in Only Murders in the Building. As Mabel exclaimed, "You've got to be effing kidding me." So that is the season 2 of Only Murders in the Building. I'm very much looking forward to season 3. My biggest theory was that each season is dedicated to one of the 3 members. The event, things that happen in the season really kind of peel the layers back a little bit, and we get to know more about them. Season 1, obviously, because the murder victim was Tim Kono, one of Mabel's closest friends. The season 1 was kind of Mabel's season. And season 2, because Rose Cooper was at the heart of this whole thing, and Charles's father was involved. He's in the painting and everything. I think season 2 was more Charles's season. And with us moving to Broadway and the season finale, set during the show, and the final moments, and the victim being one of the actors in Oliver's show, season 3 is going to be Oliver's season. We're going to get more, of a look into him as a character. And I like that idea, and I can't wait. And I'll be back next season to theorize and look over clues and analyze. This has been a lot of fun. And I've really enjoyed doing this for this season, and I can't wait to do it for next season. I hope you've enjoyed it with me. It's just one of the fun joys of doing talking about a murder mystery show, especially a murder mystery show about podcasts, which is I think it's hilarious to me, because there's a lot of that meta humor that goes into that. I will say it's pretty bittersweet, because I'm gonna come to another Tuesday next week, and there will be no new episode of Only Murders in the Building, at least not for a while. But that's all she wrote for now. So let me know what you thought of this week's episode in the comments below. Are there any kind of clues, connections I missed? Maybe we can start to follow our way back through this season to see if we can determine earlier on in the season that Poppy was the killer. We'll see. Yeah. Talk to me down in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell to get updates on all my future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next season. Bye.